The streets of Los Angeles were alive with the hum of the city, bathed in the golden glow of streetlights. People rushed past, caught up in their own worlds, barely noticing the man in a simple black coat and beanie walking among them. Keanu Reeves had long been a household name, yet he moved through the city unnoticed, blending into the crowd. Fame had never been his priority. Solitude, however, was a friend he had always welcomed. This night felt different. He had spent the entire day on set, immersed in the art of storytelling. But something deep inside him stirred a feeling that he needed to reconnect with a part of himself that had long been buried. As he wandered through familiar streets, his feet instinctively led him to an old bookstore he used to frequent in his early days. Standing in front of its dimly lit window, he hesitated. How many years had it been? Pushing open the creaky wooden door, he was met with the comforting scent of aged paper and ink. The shop hadn't changed much. A familiar voice greeted him. Keanu Reeves. Now, that's a face I haven't seen in a long time. Keanu turned to see Mr. Henderson, the elderly owner, smiling warmly. "You haven't changed much either," Keanu replied with a small grin. "Still finding peace among books?" The old man chuckled. "Peace is always here, but fewer people stop to look for it." Keanu let his fingers glide over the worn book spines as he strolled through the aisles. His gaze landed on an old, leather-bound journal tucked between two larger books. He pulled it out, brushing the dust off its cover. The pages inside were yellowed, the ink slightly faded, but the handwriting had looked strangely familiar. As he flipped through, a sentence stopped him cold. "Life is made of words spoken and forgotten." A memory long buried surfaced. He had heard these words before, but where? He closed his eyes, letting the past wash over him. Years ago, before he was famous, he had met a stranger in this very bookstore. An older man, wise beyond his years, had engaged him in a conversation that lasted hours. He had shared philosophies, insights, and at the end of their discussion, he had left Keanu with one piece of advice. Success is not about what you remember. It's about what you pass on. Keanu had nodded at the time, believing he understood. But with the whirlwind of fame and the passing years, he had forgotten that moment until now. Looking down at the journal in his hands, he turned to Mr. Henderson. "Can I buy this?" The old man studied him for a moment, then smiled. "It was waiting for you." That night, Keanu sat in his dimly lit apartment, flipping through the journal's pages, lost in thought. The more he read, the more he felt an overwhelming sense of clarity. His life had been shaped by word scripts, interviews, advice from mentors, but what had he done with those words? Had he truly shared enough of what he had learned? The next morning, he met with his manager and presented an idea. "I want to start something," he said. "A scholarship fund for young artists, but not just financial aid. I want to create a mentorship program, something where we pass on wisdom, where we share forgotten words that once guided us." His manager raised an eyebrow. "That's a huge undertaking, Keanu. Why now?" Keanu smiled softly. "Because sometimes we need to stumble upon old words to remember what really matters." And so, the Forgotten Words Initiative was born. Over the years, it became more than just a scholarship, it became a movement. Young talents not only received funding, but also the guidance and wisdom of those who had walked the path before them. Keanu Reeves had always been known for his generosity, but now he was leaving behind something greater than his films. He was passing on the very words that had shaped him. Because in the end, Life isn't just about the moments we live, it's about the wisdom we leave behind. As the initiative took off, Keanu found himself more involved than he had initially planned. He didn't just fund the program, he became an active mentor. He visited schools, spoke at events, and personally met with young artists who had the passion, but lacked the means to pursue their dreams. One evening, after a long day of meetings about the initiative, Keanu found himself back in the bookstore. Mr. Henderson greeted him with a knowing smile. "You seem lighter," the old man observed. Keanu chuckled. "Maybe because I finally feel like I'm doing something that truly matters." The old man nodded. "Words are powerful, Keanu. They build people up, and they can just as easily be forgotten. What you're doing ensures that some words will live on." Keanu picked up the journal again, running his fingers over its worn leather cover. "I've spent so much of my life absorbing stories. Maybe it's time I focus on helping others tell theirs." From that moment on, Keanu's mission was clear. He didn't just want to be remembered for his roles on the big screen. He wanted to be remembered for the words he passed down, for the opportunities he created, for the voices he helped amplify. A year later, the Forgotten Words Initiative had funded over 100 young artists, provided mentorship programs in dozens of schools, and created a ripple effect in the industry. Other celebrities took notice, joining Keanu in his mission. What started as a simple idea in an old bookstore had become a legacy. One evening, as he walked the streets of Los Angeles once more, he overheard two young filmmakers discussing a project. One turned to the other and said, "Remember what Keanu said? It's not just about success, it's about what you pass on." Keanu smiled to himself. The words had not been forgotten.